Hey everyone, it's Schmuckles. In today's video, we're going to talk about and speculate which licenses are coming in for year 10 in Dead by Daylight based on the roadmap that Behavior actually revealed at the PAX 9-year anniversary. They kind of explicitly told us which chapters are licensed and which chapters are original. We've been speculating which licenses are most likely, so we are going to be building off of that previous information here. Let's just start with things to consider for the FNAF chapter. Regarding Springtrap's power, which was not revealed, Ruthless Leaks posted with the previous leak I posted of mentioned security doors with cameras above them one step closer to Axe Trap, and he posted the picture of the FNAF map showing a camera above the security door. So here Ruthless is saying we are one step closer to confirming the projectile Axe Trap power that he had talked about. That was a rumor, but the thing is, people have noticed that Springtrap's weapon appears to be a knife. In the trailer where we first see Springtrap, you can barely tell that he's holding a knife. When Matthew Lillard comes out as Springtrap for the legendary skin, he's holding a really big knife. So people on Twitter are saying Springtrap's power appears to be a knife, meaning the axe power leak is fake. Well, when someone told Ruthless this, said he doesn't even have an axe, did you watch the stream? Ruthless said, my theory is that he either throws the knife and the axe was a placeholder model, or he can swap the axe to a secondary power. So my opinion, just based on what we're seeing here, we're seeing a knife, we're seeing Springtrap hold a knife. So it does call into question the axe power. Also notice on the roadmap it says new map. It does not say new realm. Like over in October it says new realm, but in June it says new map. So unfortunately that's leading me to believe that Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria potentially might just be coming in as a new map under an existing realm in DBD and not as its own standalone realm. The top theory for which realm it's going to go under is the Withered Isle. You can see the same colors, same pink line on the walls, and more. So Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria should be kind of strange to have a map of this stature under an existing realm in DBD. It looks like Behavior might be putting this under the realm Withered Isle, which is the set of maps Garden of Joy in Greenville Square right now. We've seen Behavior do this before with licensed maps. Defarka Deepwood is the name of the realm that describes Nostromo Wreckage and Toba Landing. So licensed maps have appeared under realms that have been pre-established with original maps. Another example of this is the Decimated Borgo, which has the Knights map Shattered Square, and also Vecna's map Forgotten Ruins. So right now I'm thinking Withered Isle is the realm that makes the most sense for the Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria. July, almost without a shadow of a doubt, in my opinion, is going to be The Walking Dead. Recall when I was speculating what big collaboration reveals could be at the anniversary, I talked about The Walking Dead pretty extensively, and there was this rumor on a Fortnite video of someone saying that the Walking Dead chapter has been pushed back and that it was in development, that was going to happen concurrently with a zombie Walking Dead game mode or game event. I thought that was kind of interesting too, because that was just someone that said something in the comment section of a YouTube video, right? And they said it was going to happen 15 years after the official premiere of the first Walking Dead episode in AMC's The Walking Dead. So 15 years after that first episode would be October 31st of this year, 2025. And we do have an event, but I'm guessing that's the Blighted Halloween event. But when we think The Walking Dead is coming in, there is a modifier. So it made me wonder if there's going to be some sort of zombie modifier, some brand new crazy in-game event that's like a zombie modifier mode. Could it at all add any validity to those rumors if this was actually a zombie modifier? The November license is an interesting one to think about. We have talked about this in previous videos. The license that makes the most sense to me for this, there's a couple of them, but the front runner has got to be The Conjuring for me. Ed and Lorraine Warren coming in as two new survivors, and the Nun or Valak coming in as the new killer makes a lot of sense here. The chapter is going to be live released in November. The Conjuring Last Rites release date is September 5th. It's under the production companies New Line Cinema and Atomic Monster, and they're working with Blumhouse and Atomic Monster to make the Dead by Daylight movie. It's a license that they have not really mentioned or called attention to like many of the other licenses in the past year, which kind of leads me to believe that they're maybe trying to be hush-hush so they don't say anything that could be anticipated about a leak about the Conjuring license. And in this video in particular, I talk about Stephen King and New Line Cinema and why I think some of the pieces of the puzzle could fit for The Conjuring and Dead by Daylight. If you haven't watched that video, I would highly recommend it. You can click on the title above. I put The Conjuring at third place in that list. Definitely have a watch of that section if you haven't already. The second option that makes a lot of sense with this chapter has got to be Stranger Things. I think Vecna as the new killer and two new survivors like Eddie Munson and Robin Buckley, or Jim Hopper and Joyce Byers would make a lot of sense for that chapter. I think it's been long enough since Netflix has renewed the contracts with Behavior to actually make a deal about this. Matthew Cote lives so far in the future, so maybe it took them this long to fit Vecna and a Stranger Things Part 2 into the roadmap. No new map could make sense because we already have Hawkins National Laboratory as a map at DBD, and maybe Behavior wants to prioritize those resources to actually create a new map in different areas for different chapters. The Part 2 chapter Project W didn't come in with a new map, so I'm like, if they have two new survivors, why wouldn't they bring in a new map just like they always do when they bring in a really big license with two new survivors? Obviously they want this chapter to be big, right? Because they're bringing bringing in 2 unique survivors? And maybe the answer to that question is it's a Stranger Things Part 2 chapter, so there isn't necessarily a driving need for a new map. They could have all of the promotional art and trailers take place on Hawkins and still make it feel like a really big chapter even with no new map. In fact, the only time they haven't done this was with Project W when they brought in Rebecca and Ada as playable characters in the Part 2 chapter. So if history is to repeat itself, the licensed chapter with 2 new survivors and no new map is a Part 2 chapter. Because Resident Evil Part 1 came in with Nemesis, Leon, and Jill with the Raccoon City Police Department map. Stranger Things with Nancy and Steve and the Demogorgon came in with Hawkins National Laboratory. And even Thalita and Renato came in with the Skull Merchant and the new map Shelter Woods. They completely changed the map Shelter Woods and promoted it and brought it in as a new map with 2 new survivors. So the only time that they brought in 2 new survivors and no new map, and this was licensed as well, was a Part 2 chapter. Does this confirm that it is a Part 2 chapter? Definitely not. There could be other reasons why there's not a new map. I just think the Stranger Things Part 2 chapter offers a pretty reasonable explanation. Another explanation could be that the March chapter is going to feature a new realm, and maybe they're focusing on that. On the topic of Stranger Things potentially being that Part 2 chapter, people are wondering if the 2v8 event is at all related to this, because there's a 2v8 event that's coming right around the time of this November chapter live release. So a Stranger Things 2v8 event with Vecna and Demogorgon and maybe Hawkins featured as a playable map is something that could maybe potentially be on the cards. Another theory floating around was this idea that Predator is going to be that November license and the 2v8 event is going to be an Alien versus Predator event. So it seems like Predator should also be in the discussion for this November license. Would 2 survivors make sense with a Predator chapter? I'm not really sure, but definitely worth mentioning that this time around the events could now be timed with certain chapter releases. Another possibility for the November license chapter is Pennywise too, because we just saw U2's do a big It collaboration with Pennywise on May 7th, 2025. And Any Nightmare You've Ever Had, and there's a balloon emote. Pretty rare to see the It franchise actually do a collaboration like this. And at the bottom of this copyright it says It and related characters and elements are the property of Warner Bros. Entertainment, so Stephen King's name is not really attached to Pennywise here. So maybe it's possible that the November chapter is a Pennywise chapter with no map and 2 survivors. Maybe adult versions of characters from the Loser Club. That's definitely possible and something that we have to mention in this video. Also, the Jason Universe posted recently, today marks the 45th anniversary of the original Friday the 13th, and Horror Inc. is celebrating with the new Jason Universe logo, honoring the franchise's legacy, which can exclusively unveil. We're kicking off the 45th anniversary celebration today. Friday the 13th legend Harry Manfredini composed music exclusively for our logo reveal. Stay tuned, more killer reveals to come this year. So if there's more killer reveals to come this year, could they be teasing a Dead by Daylight chapter with 2 new survivors here? You can think of a bunch of new survivors that make sense for 2 survivors with this chapter. You could have Tommy Jarvis paired with one of the final girls from one of the first 3 films. It would really be crazy if November was Friday the 13th. Super exciting. One of the biggest licenses left on the table after FNAF would be Jason Voorhees. It would kind of be a bummer to not have Camp Crystal Lake. That's a huge monumental part of the chapter in my opinion. But perhaps an explanation for this would be that somehow they were not able to get the rights for the map. If there's some licensing reason for the way the franchises have divvied up the properties within to where they're actually not able to bring in a map with Friday the 13th, but they still want to do it, maybe the November license would be Jason. Then Gorgera said, you know, since they're working with Blumhouse a lot for the DVD chapter, it's entirely possible that Megan is right after FNAF due to her new movie coming out, right? The new Megan movie comes out June 27th, and maybe there's plans between Blumhouse, Atomic Monster, and Behavior Interactive to bring in a Megan chapter into Dead by Daylight in November after that new movie. I don't think this is the most likely option for the reasons that we talked about in this video. We had a developer in January say that they wanted to see Megan in Dead by Daylight, and imagine that developer in the interview saying that they want to see Megan in DBD when Megan is currently in the works and slated for November in Dead by Daylight. I don't think the developer would feel comfortable saying that, so I don't think it'd be Megan. The Thing is also another theory that's floating around too. 2 new survivors with The Thing as a new killer. RJ McReady would definitely be one of those survivors. Another license that seems like it could be possible, I don't know how well received it would be, but it seems possible, is a Resident Evil Part 3 chapter. So you can see Dweet posted the license chapter coming in November was said to be big, but nothing else is known. It features a killer and 2 survivors. Gorgera quote tweeted this and said, my guess is Resident Evil Part 3 with Jack, Ethan, and Rose. Why? They said they wanted to do more with Resident Evil down the road in the anniversary stream. I can't think of anything with 2 survivors. Personally, I think the licenses that we've already already talked about, are better options, but no new map would make a lot of sense with a Resident Evil Part 3. Recall that in the rumors tab of the DBD Leaks Discord, it was said that there was rumors that Capcom wanted a third Resident Evil chapter, but also this was something that was probably debunked because along with these leaks that came from a user named Black Veil, they said that the FNAF chapter will have Springtrap as the killer and Michael Afton as the survivor, and we have no new survivor with this chapter, so all of those rumors in my mind have sort of been debunked. Some of the information is true though, because you can see there it says there was a female legendary skin for the Ken Kaneki chapter, which there actually was. It's just all this talk of this November chapter has made people sort of guess, what if it's a Resident Evil Part 3 chapter? And I just remember that this was said many months ago in the rumors tab of the DBD Leaks Discord, and I don't think that those rumors ended up being very valid. Somebody who had met Matthew Cote at PAX East posted on Twitter, and this was recommended to me in my feed. Someone posted this and said they met Matthew Cote at PAX East. I asked about an Outlast chapter, no confirmed answers at all, almost deliberately, so one would say I'm a believer. So I just think it'd be really funny if Outlast was somehow on Behavior's radar as an upcoming chapter in the future, and someone directly asked Matthew Cote about this at PAX East. And I think it's worth mentioning that this person was not given a straight answer. And how about this post from the Ink Bendy Cat? Someone asked Matthew Cote, so you did FNAF, how about Bendy? Cote said at PAX East, I can't say anything. If I did, I would get tackled, but you just put me under a lot of pressure right now. Which is really funny and more of a niche license, but definitely something worth mentioning in the speculations and licensing news front. Something that's really crazy too in regards to guessing what licenses are coming in Dead by Daylight is like all of these licenses were on the most recent survey. The most recent behavior satisfaction survey, which was on September 18, 2024, featured all of these licenses, and all the collaborations that we've seen since then have been on the survey, including even like crazy niche collaborations like The Witcher. The Witcher is on this survey. From this satisfaction survey, out of all of these licenses, which of this license best fits the puzzle for the November chapter? A licensed killer with 2 new survivors and no new map. Which license would make sense with 2 new survivors? Which franchise, and why would they bring in 2 survivors, and why would they not bring in a new map? Let me know in the comment section below. Right now, The Conjuring and Stranger Things Part 2 are what seem most likely to me. And one possibility we definitely have to talk about for the November licensed chapter is the idea of a Jurassic chapter 2, because Ruthless did claim that there was a Jurassic chapter coming. So we have a new killer with 2 new survivors. The fact that Ian Malcolm and Robert Muldoon were thrown around as new survivor possibilities for this chapter, maybe that would make sense with 2 new survivors for November. But a Dead by Daylight developer did say that they want Jurassic Worlds in DBD. So would they actually say this if there was a Jurassic chapter planned? In my opinion, probably not, but something worth mentioning. Make sure to like this video and subscribe to this channel. We're going to follow speculations and theories all throughout the year leading up to these chapters, and I'm sure new news and theories are going to come out too. So make sure to like and subscribe if you want to be in the know with what people think is coming next. That does it for this video. Goodbye.